My daughter-in-law called me 3 days before Christmas to tell me I wasn't welcome anymore. Not at a restaurant. Not at her house. At the lake house. The house where I rocked my babies to sleep. Where my husband Walter took his last breath in the front room. Where my Katie spent her last good summer before the cancer took her at 19. It's really just close family this year, Eleanor, Vanessa said, sweet as store-bought frosting. And a few important guests. Honestly, you'd only make everyone uncomfortable. I stood in my kitchen with the phone against my ear. And I didn't say a word. Not because I couldn't. Because Vanessa had forgotten one small thing. She'd forgotten whose name was on that deed. Welcome back to my channel, where I tell you the true stories of what family does when they think you've grown too old to notice, and what happens when they find out you noticed everything. Stay with me until the end and tell me what you would have done. My name is Eleanor. Ellie to the people who used to love me out loud. I'm 71 years old, and for the last 2 years I've been a ghost in my own family. There in the photographs, gone from the conversation. The lake house sits on Silver Lake, just outside Millbrook, Ohio. White clapboard, a green door, a dock Walter and I saved 2 years to build. We raised our 2 children there every summer. And there's a door frame in the kitchen, you know the kind, where every June I'd stand the children up straight and pencil a little line above their heads. Katie Ethan all the way up the wood. Katie's last line is dated the summer she was 19. She never made it to 20. And Walter, my Walter. His heart gave out in that front room 4 years ago, holding my hand. That house isn't property to me. It's the last place on this earth that still holds both of them. After Walter passed, my son Ethan and his wife Vanessa took over the holidays out there. Slowly. A new sofa. A repainted room. Just freshening it up, Eleanor. And I let them. I told myself I was lucky just to be near my family. I told myself a lot of things. What I didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Walter, before he died, had done something quiet. Something that would change everything. And it took a Christmas betrayal for me to find out what. Let me tell you how a woman becomes invisible. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens the way water wears down stone. First I stopped being asked to cook. Then I stopped being asked my opinion. Then Vanessa started answering questions I'd been asked directly. Like I was a child who might embarrass her. Eleanor gets confused, she'd say, patting my hand. I don't get confused. I balanced my own books for 50 years. But you say a thing about an old woman often enough and people start to believe it. Even her own son. That was the part that broke me quietly. Ethan, my boy, went cold. He stopped calling. And when he did, there was a stiffness to him, like he was talking to someone he'd been warned about. My Ethan used to fall asleep on my lap. Now he could barely look at me. If your own family ever made you feel like a burden in the home you built with your own hands, would you have argued or gone quiet the way I did? Tell me in the comments. I need to know I'm not the only one. Then came the phone call I told you about. And 3 days after that, something happened that I still believe was the good Lord's own timing. My granddaughter Grace, she's 9 and she's the only one who still runs to me. Called to whisper Merry Christmas, Grandma. And then in that innocent way children have, she said, Grandma, are you excited we're all moving to the lake house? Moving. I went very still. An hour later my phone buzzed. Vanessa had added me to the family group chat by mistake. And there it all was in black and white. I sat at my kitchen table and I read every message. They weren't planning a Christmas. They were planning me out of my own life. Ethan's business, the contracting company he'd borrowed so much to start, was failing. And Vanessa had a plan to fix it. Get me to sign what she called routine estate paperwork. Transfer the lake house. Sell it in the new year. And in the meantime, move her own parents into the guest wing. The cruelty wasn't even loud. That's what I want you to understand. It was casual. Vanessa wrote, she barely knows what day it is. She'll sign anything. And my son wrote back 5 words. Just don't upset her before she signs. Just don't upset her before she signs. I read that line until it stopped feeling like anything at all. And here's the question that kept me up that night, the one I still can't fully answer. Was my son a coward in that moment? Or was he just a good man who'd been fed poison 1 drop at a time for 2 years until he couldn't taste it anymore? Tell me what you think. I go back and forth to this day. But somewhere around 2 in the morning I stopped crying. Because I remembered something. I remembered Walter, thin and gray in that hospital bed, gripping my hand and saying, "Ellie, I took care of it. The house. Don't you ever let anyone move you out of that house." I thought it was the medicine talking. It wasn't. The next morning I drove out to the lake house one last time, or so I thought. And what I found there brought me to my knees. If you've ever watched someone paint right over the memories you made with your own two hands, then you already know exactly how I felt when I walked into that kitchen. The door frame. Katie's height marks. Ethan's height marks. 50 years of little pencil lines. Gone. Painted over in a flat, tasteful gray. Vanessa had called it a refresh. She had erased my dead daughter's height off the wall to sell the house faster. I put my hand flat against that smooth gray paint, and I swear I could feel the grooves underneath, like the wood still remembered even when the world didn't. I didn't scream. I didn't cry, not right then. I just let it settle into my bones. Then I went to Walter's old roll-top desk in the corner, the one he never let anyone touch, because some part of me just needed to be near him. And in the bottom drawer, under his reading glasses and a tin of peppermints, I found a folder. And a sealed envelope with my name on it, in his handwriting. The folder held the deed to the lake house. I read it 3 times before my hands would stop shaking. Because after Katie died, after his own heart started failing, Walter had quietly gone down to the county and put this house in my name. Mine. Alone. Not the family's. Not Ethan's someday. Mine, recorded, stamped, ironclad. Vanessa had spent 2 years planning to sell a house that was never, for one single day, hers to sell. She forgot whose house it was. And that sealed envelope? I couldn't open it yet. My hands wouldn't let me. I slipped it into my coat pocket and I drove home to do the one thing my family never expected an old woman to do. Fight back quietly. I didn't call my son. I didn't scream at Vanessa. That is not how Walter raised me, and it is not how I deal with people who cross me. I called a lawyer. A kind, careful man named David Klein. He read the deed, and he said the words I'll never forget. "Mrs. Carter, this is your house. Free and clear. They cannot sell it, transfer it, or move a single soul into it without you." So I did nothing loud. I simply did not sign their paperwork. And I sent one quiet email to the realtor, Linda Foster, letting her know that the sole recorded owner of the property had not agreed to any sale. That was all it took. A title search does the rest. The sale fell apart. The move-in fell apart. All of it gone without me raising my voice one time. I waited until Christmas morning. While Vanessa hosted her important guests in my home, poured wine in my kitchen, and stood her own parents in front of my daughter's painted-over wall, I typed one line into that group chat. "Merry Christmas. The realtor will explain the rest, and so will the deed." Then I set the phone down, and I made myself a cup of tea. The chat went dead silent. And then the calls started. Dozens of them in a single hour, from the very people who couldn't be bothered to dial my number in 2 years. But the truth that came out that day cut deeper than any deed. Because what Vanessa never knew, what she had taught my son to overlook, was that the useless old woman had quietly been paying little Grace's medical bills for a year, and floating Ethan's failing business out of Walter's account, month after month, so my boy wouldn't lose everything. I had been saving him, while his wife taught him to despise me. When Ethan realized that, standing in that kitchen, something in him just broke. And in the middle of all the shouting, it was little Grace who ended it. She started to cry and she said, "Mommy told me not to let Grandma see the messages." The whole room went quiet. Out of the mouth of a 9-year-old, the truth just fell onto the floor where everyone could finally see it. That night, alone in my house, I finally opened Walter's envelope. I want to read you what my husband wrote because I think he wrote it for more women than just me. "My Ellie, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and someone has tried to put you out of our home. So let me stand between you and them one last time. I put the lake house in your name because I know how this family works when I'm not there to steady it. You were never a guest in your own life, Ellie. Not for one day of our 50 years. I protected the one place on this earth that still remembers our Katie, because I couldn't protect her, and I will not let anyone make you small in the last house that holds her laugh. Stand your ground, sweetheart. You are the foundation this whole family was built on, even the ones who forgot it. Especially them. I'll be waiting by the dock. Your Walter." I read it until the words went blurry. 40 years of that man bringing me coffee at the kitchen counter. And here he was for years in the ground, reaching up to hold my hand at the exact moment I needed it most. That was what they'd all forgotten. Not just whose name was on the deed, whose love was holding up every single wall. I kept the house. Of course I kept the house. The first thing I did was buy a pencil. And I stood in that kitchen, and from memory and from old photographs, I drew Katie's height marks back onto that door frame. Every line. Right over Vanessa's tasteful gray. My daughter is going back on the wall where she belongs, and she is staying there. I put the lake house into a trust for Grace. Only for Grace. And for Ethan too, but only if he learns to choose the hard truth over the easy comfort. He's trying. He calls now, really calls. It's slow and it's awkward and it is not fixed. But he brings Grace to see me. He lets her run to me. And he doesn't look away anymore. The marriage didn't survive the truth. I won't pretend that makes me sad. And Vanessa? Months later, a plain envelope came in the mail. No note. Inside was a single photograph, one she must have taken before she painted, of that original doorframe, all those pencil lines, Katie's name in my own handwriting. She'd kept it. Why she sent it I will never know. Guilt maybe. Or maybe some small buried decent thing. What's the one place that still holds the people you've loved and lost? Tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one. That photograph is framed on my mantle now, right next to Walter's letter. It was too late to be forgiveness. But it might, just might have been the beginning. I'll let you decide.